Greetings, everyone, and welcome. December the 15th, 2025, 1:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is 8:15 p.m. in Kyiv, Ukraine. I can confirm for you the talks between Zelenskyy and the American team of Witkoff and Kushner, plus European presidents and chancellors and leaders, has concluded, and we have the results of that. I know that Sky News is reporting things, Reuters is reporting things, but what we are listening for is what is President Zelenskyy reporting, and I have that for you. In a really strange twist of events, in my opinion, the timing for these new polls that came out of Ukraine today was not by accident. I personally believe, in my opinion, that these were used to strengthen President Zelensky's inner confidence that he was representing the will of the Ukrainian people. And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter that Donald Trump says we're 90% there. Ukraine is not going to give up land. And I remind you, these are not peace talks. These are capitulation talks. You do not have peace talks if you're not talking to the nation that has invaded you. So this is where we're at today. I have all of the facts, all of the details completely confirmed for you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Let's jump straight to it, guys. And I want to start here. 75% of Ukrainians say no. Absolutely no. And I will show you the poll. Zelenskyy himself saying no more talks about our lands. Everything I'm giving you now are quotes. Zelenskyy saying very little after this in regard to details. He was kind. He says, you know what? The Americans were kind. They understand our positions. The meetings were very difficult, yet our positions were stated. No fighting, none of those things. The bottom line is, this is the final quote. There have been enough dialogues about the territories. I think that for now, we have different positions, to be honest. That is the end result. It doesn't matter about the rest of the things we're talking about, security guarantees, which are important, future rebuilding of Ukraine, which is important. The bottom line is there's no agreement on the territory, and that is what the war is being fought over. And we also know that people like Peskov and Ushakov out of Russia have completely said the territory issue is not even on the table. So, guys, this is where we end up. But Ukraine today, with the release of these polls, the timing of it was perfect to solidify the Ukrainian position. When the polls started coming in, and I was getting them this morning, the meetings were still going on. And then as I began to disseminate the information, and then I translated it for you, and I will be sharing it with you, I couldn't believe it. I said 70. I mean, I did believe it, but it was like encouraging, very encouraging. And to the point where I even asked ChatGPT, I asked Gemini, I researched it as much as I could. I've talked to Ukraine today with my friends there, and I verified the poll numbers. A poll released today, this week, December the 15th, today, by the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology, KIIS, confirms that 75% of Ukrainians consider ceding territory, specifically withdrawing troops from Donbas, completely unacceptable. I think this is why we can say we've had good talks. We're 90% there. That's what Trump says. For me, if you have no agreements on the territory, you're not 90% there. You're still working on other issues, but you're not getting to the core issue. So, and it's interesting, now we're talking about the core issue for Ukraine, and we know that Putin and all of those cronies in the Kremlin are always talking about the root issues in Kyiv. So, interesting talk. So, we have confirmed it. Now, let's look at the charts. These are the actual charts released by the KIIS, and it compares. On the chart on the right, on the chart on the left is the plan of Europe and Ukraine, basically 72% of Ukrainians, if you mix those two numbers together, easy to agree, but difficult, but we work on it, is agreeing to the plan of Europe and Ukraine, which is still being formulated right now. Defend, fight, win the war. But on the right, 75% December 25 today, December the 15th, That is agreeing to the Russian plan, which is capitulation, withdrawal of all troops, and give away thousands of square kilometers of territory. Completely unacceptable. That is why Zelensky so confident and saying, listen, I know what the people want. And he is accurately and heroically representing the will of the Ukrainian people. Second, we go to a few more charts that I think will confirm for you the position of Ukraine on December the 15th. This is question, how much do you trust or distrust Volodymyr Zelensky? This poll released today, 61% of Ukrainians during a wartime, corruption scandals, the pressure of war, DC with the pressure, Kremlin with the pressure, representing his nation, 61% of Ukrainians trust President Volodymyr Zelensky. Next question. How much longer are you willing to tolerate this war? Interesting. I want you just to look at the two charts, the two columns on the right. It's September of 25, 62%. As long as you need, let's continue to fight. The little light blue, 4% on the second column, 1 year, and then the 21%, several months to half a year. That was 3 months ago. Today, December 15th, 25, the number has went up. 63%. Ukraine, keep fighting. You have as long as you need. 1% 1 year. 15% stating several months to half a year. We're still, 63, 73, 78, 79%. Right? Equal with that 75% plus or minus saying no to Ukrainian capitulation. We're not going to give away land. 79% saying we keep fighting for our nation. This right here, very interesting, because we know that the infrastructure of Ukraine is under massive assault. The question raised, and remember, guys, these answers are today. In your opinion, the occasional lack of electricity in many cities and villages is primarily whose fault? And overwhelmingly, the blue, 57%. The reason we have power problems is Russian attacks. Russia is attacking our grid. It's their fault. The second, 29%, ineffective actions of the Ukrainian authorities. And we know that we've had problems in those spheres of gas and electrical infrastructure. But President Zelensky has been changing those leadership structures, changing out those that have been responsible for that. So we hope that to improve. You know, I know right now, after Ukraine has struck that sub, and maybe I'll give you more information on that on a different video, I want to focus on these poll numbers so you understand. We know right now Russia loading up a massive attack. And when it will unfold, we don't know. But I can tell you, many shaheeds, all the bombers, the MiG-31s, the nuclear subs that are still functioning are all loaded and ready. Ukraine already talking about it, and we can expect that. But this right here says 57% of the fault of our electrical issues is because of Russian attacks. Now, excuse me, I'm still getting better. This is so interesting. This is a year-over-year comparison of whom you trust as a Ukrainian. 3 categories here: the European Union, the United States, and NATO. Okay? So in December of 24, 46% of Ukrainians trusted the European Union. In December of 25, today, 49% of Ukrainians trust the European Union. I just want to focus on the trust side. Now, are you ready for this one? December of 24, 41% of Ukrainians trusted the United States of America. December of 25, today, 21% of Ukrainians trust the United States of America. And I'm ashamed of that number as an American. It is absolutely unacceptable that Ukraine cannot trust the United States, but I completely understand why. I've been there so much, they do not trust the United States right now. NATO, 43% in December of 24 trusted. And of course, that will drop now because of the correlation with the United States. Although Pearl program weapons are still coming, it doesn't drop as hard. 34% today trust NATO. The last one, is it time for an election for the president of Ukraine? 25%, yes, it's worth it. The risk, it's worth it. 25%. 9%, I believe that elections should be held, but not right now, but before the end of the war somehow. And then 57%, once again, majority. No, elections should be held after a final peace agreement and the end of the war. And a big percentage here, 9%, saying, I don't know the answer. I do not know what to say. So all of this coming on the heels, these are the facts that have unfolded. And what is the response after these 2 days of talks from President Donald Trump? Well, Trump is satisfied with the outcome of the negotiations between the United States and the Ukrainian delegations in Berlin. 90% of the issues have already been resolved. This is reported directly by Sky News, Reuters, Ukrainian sources, and many others. I do not know how you calculate 90% when 75% of Ukrainians say, we're not giving up our land, and it's confirmed, and that's today's statement. And President Zelenskyy says, enough talking about the territory. We have a different position. Let's be honest about it. Guys, this is where we're at. This is the end result of those 2 days. So you may ask, well, what's next? The war continues. It's going to be very interesting to see what unfolds over the next 2 or 3 days, and also the responses that will be coming from the Kremlin on these statements, on these votes, on this 75% saying no, we're not giving up our land. We'll keep you posted. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing. We appreciate each and every one of you. Be blessed.